Good Tuesday afternoon, everyone. I hope this day finds you doing well. Before you come in the chat, please hit the thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't already, and share this video. Sometimes the sharing of a video is very important because I think, in a way, a channel like this is an outreach. However, there are many channels like this, but I feel like it's such a privilege to come on here and to be able to share the word with you guys. And you never know, sharing that might make a difference in someone's life. They may be going through something now, and this may help them. And I think in the beginning, when I developed this channel, you have to have so many subscribers before you do your first video. But I find that sometimes subscribers are a good thing, but it's really secondary to that message that I wanted to bring to you guys. I always believed if something in our lives, if it changed one thing in a person's life and brought them closer to the Lord, then I think that's what it's all about. So, I believe that I was definitely inspired by the Lord to do this channel, and I think He had a plan for me through this channel. The Lord does work in mysterious ways, and everything is all according to His plan and His time. So sometimes we get impatient and wonder when things are going to change, but that's where our faith comes in, our faith in God, to know that everything that He has for us is all part of a bigger plan, a plan to enrich our lives and make them better through the lessons that we learn through everyday life. So I do think there's a reason for everything. And I believe that, having a channel like this could inspire someone, maybe cause them to think about things that they've never thought about before. And through that, never underestimate the power of God's word. I mean, it's very powerful. It's something that we can lean on in our darkest times, that we can hold to, that keeps us walking upright with Him. He didn't say that when we walked with Him that it was going to be easy, because we are in the world and we're amongst a lot of things. And, that's where the faith comes in, the faith to believe that no matter what you're going through right now, that God has a plan for you. And sometimes things are tough, guys. But I think as we go through those tough times, that we learn lessons from God Himself that will help us later on in life. I really, really believe that. I think that everything happens for a reason, and for everything there is a season. I totally believe that, and that God's presence in our lives stimulate that faith, that we can see that He is actually working through our lives, and we know that He promises to never leave us, and that is very true. He will never, even though the times that we go through may be tough. I often described it as being on a ride at the fair. You're on this ride and you're petrified and you want to get off, but you can't. That's how life is. It's one circumstance right after the other. And I often refer to life as, making one mistake after the other until we get it right. And we will get it right, but we'll never get it right until God is part of the equation. So, we must learn to lean on Him for everything. I know myself through the past several months that with the things that I have been through myself. I've had to learn, there was a lot learned from it. I mean, there were peaks, there were valleys, but you have to keep going knowing that there's going to be an end to what you're going through. God did not send his son to this earth to let you walk alone. He would not do that. That was not part of the divine plan. So we're going to move on. We're on Psalm 19, and it's a collection of sacred songs and prayers attributed to King David, which was the second king of ancient Israel. The author of the psalm reflects on the glory of God's creation and the importance of following God's law. So we're going to go ahead, and there's Minnie. Thank you, Minnie. I had this blouse. I decided to throw it on. I said, it's lightweight, and I just added a few embellishments like I always do, and it's good to see you, sweetheart. I hope everything's going well for you. It's always a pleasure to see you, Minnie. It really is. And, like Minnie and myself, we have even though we've never met one another, I think there's a bond there that, I can't really describe it, but there's just something there, and it's just something that's a wonderful thing, and I do appreciate Minnie so much. Sometimes when we're conversating with people, we just don't realize how sometimes our words can have such a peaceful effect on another person. But, I'm just one of those people that, I hold people dear because, people come into our lives for a reason. And God sends those people, and it works both ways. It could be something life that other person fulfills, and it's definitely a God thing. So it's good to see you, Minnie. So as we read through Psalm 19, we can see how David is talking about the things that God made, the things that He put on the earth for us to enjoy. So the heavens declare the glory of God, and the firmament shows His handiwork, which you can't go outside without seeing a tree or a flower or something like that. And even the sun in the sky and the moon and the stars at night, God put those there for us. Something of great beauty that we can enjoy, because when God created the earth, everything He created was for our benefit. The breeze on a summer day, the beauty of the earth itself, and there's many beautiful things in different states, and just the magnificence to look upon these things and know that God created those for us. Day into day utters speech, and night into night reveals knowledge. There is no speech nor language where their voice is not heard. Their line has gone out through the earth, and their words to the end of the world. In them He has set a tabernacle for the sun, which is like a bridegroom coming out of his chamber, and rejoices like a strong man to run its race. Just imagine if we didn't have the sunlight. The sunlight is good for those farmers that grow their crops. I find that when the sun is out, we're more energetic, and just things like that. That's what that reminds me of. If we didn't have the sun, and there's Dana, welcome in. If we didn't have that sunlight, look how the importance of one thing is. It's good to see you, Dana. Of one thing is that contributes to the feeding of people. The sun, people grow crops and they need sunlight. And isn't it magnificent how God pre planned everything for us? He knew what that as human beings we needed the sunlight. The sunlight to me is very uplifting, and the sunlight to grow the crops that we need as human beings for nourishment for our body. The Bible is nourishment for our souls. When we read that word in there, that is so uplifting, and the promises that God has made stands forever and ever, and we can lean on those promises as we go along in life and things happen, and we just feel like that we say, God, why me? Well, God has a plan. And even though the times may be tough, we have to know that God has a plan. That I know this for a fact, He lifts us up when we think that we can't go any further. And He lifts us up, and we go along our day, and we should give Him all the praise, because sometimes, guys, with a lot of people that's going through depression, it's hard to get out of the bed and become a functioning part of society because of that. And He gives us that. He feeds our spirit, our soul. And there's Lenore. Welcome in, sweetie. It's good to see you. He feeds our heart and our soul. He gives us hope. He gives us direction. And at the end of that journey, He'll give us peace, even though we may feel like we've been through a landmine. And I think it really shows how God works when we've been through the most awful thing in our life, and we come out on the other side being blessed because of our association with the Lord, that we've come out blessed and knowledgeable and everything like that, and giving thanks to Him for those, even those little things, that we can give Him thanks that we have walked through things that, that we never thought that we could get through, that we thought that would destroy us, that we walked through with the Lord's help, and His ever presence in our lives, and to hold to that hope and that faith that gets us through every day. We're human. We have human knowledge. God is all knowing, and we're human, and we only have human knowledge. Thank you, Lenore. And how great it is to know that God is there, even though we feel like giving up, because so many things are going wrong. We don't see an avenue out of it, and then God comes down with His divine guidance and all that. It's just amazing that, some people call it luck. No, it's not luck. It's the divine presence of God in our lives that gets us through those tough times. And, through all that we learn, there are lessons in everything that we learn that possibly may keep us from making the same mistake twice. But it's just, his love and His patience with us. And, sometimes He has to have a lot of patience with us, especially when we're headstrong and stubborn and think that our way is the right way. And then at the end of the day, after all is said and done, if we realize the mistakes that we made, God is a loving God. He is a giving God, but He also wants us to know and think in our minds that, what could we have done different? And He enlightens our minds to that, and sometimes that's a hard pill to swallow, but He does get us through that. And it's just great to know that even though there may be suffering in our lives, that in the end, that our prayers and supplication to God will get us through that. And I know many of you know that, out there, but it does bear repeating. So in them he has set a tabernacle for the sun, which is like a bridegroom coming out of his chamber, and rejoices like a strong man to run its race. Its rising is from one end of heaven, and its circuit to the other end, and there is nothing hidden from its heat. So, I thought about before I think about a lot of things before I do these lives, and to think about, actually, the sun is a star, but to think about the solar system and all the planets in it. And sometimes, men think that a lot of things were created from explosions, but God placed those planets up there for a reason. And it does breed curiosity and to find out. I think it was to enrich man's knowledge about who put them there, and not to think that, well, it was an explosion. Those were placed there by God's hand, those planets in the solar system, which I think we're still learning a lot about in this day and time. But to think that, he placed those there, it kind of blows your mind to know that, there's other planets in our solar system that, man has tried to research for years, and they're so busy learning about the atmosphere, this, that, and the other, that they're not thinking clear on who put those there. I mean, it's obvious that God put those there, and you just think about it. And, you know, one of my amazements is a shooting star. I mean, I think I have seen one, but isn't it amazing that something that is billion light years away can show itself eventually to us? I know, Lenore, isn't it amazing? It just starts us to think about so many things that God does. I think those stars are shooting because he wants everyone to know that's him. And it's just, you stand in awe of all the things that God created. That, yeah, the sky and the sea, God created all of that. And to think about the different colors of water in different areas of the world, that from turquoise to water so clear that you can see the bottom of a very deep sea location. I mean, it's just amazing that, we think about, well, the water's different, and that's the glory of God, guys. He created all of that for us to see and experience, his magnificent and his glory. It's just to see the tide coming in, the waves, and everything like that. It's just so rewarding to be able to be a part of, to see something like that. Of course, waves occur quite a bit, but to know that God, put the oceans there and the tide and everything. He had it all planned, and not just a singular thing about the ocean or water, the tide that comes in, the just everything like that. There's different colored sand in different locations around the world. It's just really amazing to think about that. The law of the Lord is perfect, converting the soul. Now, the law of the Lord, which is the Ten Commandments, which is mentioned in Deuteronomy, and the testimony of the Lord is sure, making wise the simple. The statutes of the Lord are right, rejoicing the heart. The commandment of the Lord is pure, enlightening the eyes. The fear of the Lord is clean, enduring forever. The judgments of the Lord are true and righteous altogether. More to be desired are they than gold. Let's see. Yea, that much fine gold, sweeter also than honey and the honeycomb. Moreover, by them your servant is warned, and in keeping them there is a great reward, and we know what that is. It's heaven, and sometimes, the commandments are there and we know what they are, and sometimes we kind of fall to the wayside. And God brings us back to reality because we're human, we have human understanding. God is more intelligent than obviously than us. Daily thing that we walk through this life trying to keep to the commandments, where there's other outer things that may cause us not possibly not to have faith and think, well, God, why am I going through this? Guys, here's one thing that'll be the hardest thing that we ever live through, is the loss of a loved one. And a lot of times we cry out to God, why did you take my mother, my father, or something like that? But guys, if we question the bad things in our lives, would we not question the good things? I thought about that. The good things that come to us that we don't really, it just really blows my mind that, when a blessing comes our way, we don't say, oh my goodness, God, why did you give me this? Because God's judgment is just. And we should give him all the glory and all the praise. I'm an analytical thinker. It come to me that, you know, we question the bad things, but we don't question the good things that happen to us because we're happy, and we don't question that. We don't say, Lord, and sometimes we do, Lord, I am not worthy of this. And you know what he says? Yes, you are. You are my child. And I reward those who seek me. So, I think about all these things, and that's how my mind works. We have sometimes in our thoughts, there's many facets to those thoughts, and it causes us to really think about other things that we never thought about before. Who can understand his errors? Cleanse me from the secret. Keep your servant also from presumptuous sins. Let them not have dominion over me. And how many times, guys, have we prayed when we've been in a situation where we've been tempted to seek revenge or do something that's underhanded? And sins like this, guys, sin is like a vice around your life. And the more you dwell in that sinful nature, the tighter the vice becomes, and it's on your heart. And it just squeezes and squeezes until you're just lifeless and you don't care, and things have come upon you that you just give up. But I think that's what sin is also like shackles. They keep you from having that relationship with God that he offers freely. And it keeps you from doing that because your mind is going other places that it should not go. And that's not just one of us, that's all of us. Because we are all predestined to sin because of what happened in the Garden of Eden in the very beginning. And it's And when we take those feelings to God and release, I call them releasing that beast. I have a saying for everything. To release that beast and say, God, this is bigger than me. I can't deal with it, and it's causing me to react negatively against your laws, which I know that in the end that I'll be judged for. And God gives clarification. He opens our eyes in the oddest ways, guys. He really does. And when they say the Lord works in mysterious ways, that is so true. And what I mean by taking a horrible situation and turning it into a blessing, and we're like, this is horrible. How can a blessing come out of it? Because that's how God works. He gets his point across to us. He heightens our intelligence of a situation by showing us things. And I really believe that, guys. Let the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable in your sight. That's where that danger zone comes in. When we're down, we feel like we're down on our luck and we're so upset and we lash out. And sometimes we leave God out of the equation, and it happens to all of us. We get so downtrodden with what we're going through, and we have that pity party. Well, why me? There's a lesson in everything. Like I said, if you question those bad things in your life, wouldn't you question the good ones as well? And I think that's really food for thought. O Lord, my strength and my Redeemer. There we go. He is our strength. He is our Redeemer. He lifts us up. He lifts us up. He dusts us off and reminds us that we belong to Him. We are His children. And He is not going to let us fall as long as we take refuge in His wings and stop feeling sorry for ourselves and why this, why that. Take it to the Lord in prayer, and you'll figure out why in the end. And sometimes we get impatient waiting for answers, and like I said, we feel like that we are like we are that little bird in that storm, that our feathers are ruffled, we're out of breath, we're saddened. That's where God comes in, guys, and takes that away from us. And He didn't say to lay down and not do anything. He wants you to do the right thing because He loves you. He's there for you. And let's admit it, guys, feeling sorry for yourself doesn't get you anywhere. It's action that gets you to where you need to be. And God will lead you through those valleys where you think that if one more thing happens, I'm just gonna, He'll get you through those tough times. And sometimes when we're going through things, the days seem so long, but His mercy is more. We need to remember that. So, Psalm 20, to the chief musician, a psalm of David. May the Lord in the day of trouble, and we know those come to us. May the name of the God of Jacob defend you. May He send you help from the sanctuary and strengthen you out of Zion. May He remember all your offerings and accept your burnt sacrifice. May He grant you accordingly to your heart's desire and fulfill your purpose. He will rejoice in your salvation. And in the name of our God, He will set up our banners. May the Lord fulfill all your petitions. Now I know that the Lord saves. He anointed. He will answer him from His holy heaven with saving strength of His right hand. Some trust in chariots and some in horses, but we will remember the name of the Lord our God, that have bowed down and fallen. But we will have risen and stand upright. Save, Lord. May the King answer us when we call. And he will answer you, but in his own time. It's not about it's not about our time, it's about his time. And God's time is different from our time. It really is. And he will, he will lift you up. He will bring you through things that you felt like you could never do, that you could never do. I know this well, guys. I know it well. And I know that he has been with me throughout my life and my journey. And it's been each person's situation's different. Some go through things, guys, when you go through something and you come out on the other side, it gives you strength to move on. And that strength comes from God Himself. And just like the footprints, when we feel like we're alone, and it says, well, I only noticed one set of footprints, and he said, it was then I carried you. And that is so true, and that's how God works. He knows our capabilities, he knows our strength, he knows everything about us. And he'll work with your strengths to move you on to something greater, guys. He really will. And sometimes the days seem long, and God is merciful, guys. He doesn't want us going through things that, all I can say is sometimes he takes your strengths and he enhances those with his glory. He will take you, people will say, well, how can that person be that strong? I would just fall apart. It's because of God's glory and his guidance, and you're listening to what he's saying to you as you walk through your life. And through prayer and supplication, it will bring you out of the other end of whatever you're going through. Man, could I tell you a few stories? Well, they're not stories, they're the truth. And I know that he's walked beside me many times, and through my frustrations and my trials and tribulations, and he's brought me out the other side. Because, guys, whenever you do the right thing, God is always there. You should seek to do the right thing, and everything else will fill itself in. You start out on the right foot, you never end up on the wrong one, right? That's another one of my sayings. The king shall have joy in your strength, O Lord, and in your salvation, how greatly he shall rejoice. Because salvation only comes through. It's, to me, salvation is something that after you've gone through your life and been through many things and never forsaken the Lord, because he doesn't forsake us. He leads us through those valleys, and he lifts us, guys. He lifts us up through, after everything we've gone through. He will give you peace and joy that you can't even imagine after you've gone through those storms. And guys, it's all worth it. The storms that we walk through, and God's grace, peace, his mercy, his intimate mercy that brings you through something. And guys, he really wants us to learn a lesson through all that. But he doesn't want us to dwell on the negative. He does not want you to dwell. That's why after you have walked through everything and he's brought you out on the other side, that he takes that away, guys. He takes all that hurt, all the fear, all the resentment, and he takes it away. He takes it away from you, and peace resides in your heart after you haven't had it for so long. And it's just undescribable how you feel, that nothing on this earth can fill, and his presence And you know where that peace came from, guys. And you know exactly where it came from. You have given him his heart's desire and have not withheld the request of his lips. And that's through prayers. Sometimes we ask God for things, and sometimes God answers those prayers, but he gives you only the things that are. I don't know where I would be without God's mercy and grace. Amen, Dana. I tell you, you know, and isn't it amazing how you can be around someone that's went through something and you can see that inner strength and you're just in awe by it. And you're just thinking, well, look at what that person went through and they came out on the other side. And I think, guys, when we do go through things, that people see that strength because it is God's given, it's God's gift. And it emulates through their very being, it really does, that strength. And you know why that happens, guys? So that we can help other people, that we can be there for people in their darkest hours and be able to lend a listening ear, a loving heart, and to know that they won't be judged for whatever. Because at the end of the day, guys, none of us are perfect. I mean, things happen to people in their lives that sometimes were brought about by different things, and it's what being able to identify with another person and understand what they're going through. I think a lot of times, we go through our lives thinking that people, if we open up to another person, they won't understand. And I think that's when God sends that right person into your life that can help you. And, he knows what he's doing, guys. He really does. And he gives us that strength to go on. Even though we face many challenges in this life, he gives you what you need when you need it. And, we can all witness to that fact that so many times we felt like, I just can't take this. I cannot be handed anything else. But when God reaches his hand down to you, you're going to know it. And how will you know it? The peace and serenity that's in your heart. That's how you know it. That peace that can come from no one but the Lord himself. And I got all fired up and lost my spot. Let me look down here. Desire. So for you meet him with blessings of goodness. You set a crown of pure gold upon his head. He asks life from you, and you gave it to him. Length of days forever and ever. His glory is great in your salvation. Honor and majesty you have placed upon him. Yes, seeing others growing through life's troubles ways. It really does, because sometimes people go through things that we have no idea they're going through. And guys, I'm telling you, the worst thing you can do is keep things to yourself. Of course, first you go to God, and he will send that person into your life that's going to help you. And then sometimes we doubt, because so many times people have been sent in our lives for a negative. Their motive is not what it should be, and we wonder, we doubt. But God does show you when he will put that light out there for you to know who is sincere, who's not, what their end game is, what they have. Because, guys, some people are more sensitive than others, and it really, to be able to pour that out. Thank you, Gina. Your words are like they are coming from our Lord Himself to give us strength to go on through our difficult times. Yes, many, I do believe that because I get really fired. I mean, it's just, I think the Spirit moves through people. I really do. And you just get, it's electrifying and you just want to share it. And you just want to know other, it gives people hope. And he does. He, before, every time before I start these lives, I pray to God that these could inspire someone else and change someone's life for the better. And I pray about that, that people that may watch this later on get a sense of consolation that they're not alone, that God's with them, and to let them know that there's more things in life than just the things that they're going through, and I don't know. And you're right, Minnie. I believe He moves through me. I really believe that. I really do. And He does, because when you're speaking from this Bible, and God knows your intent and what you're aiming for, and what, I'm a people person. I have not always been a people person. But I think when God showed me that I have something to give is when that developed. And I really do, because I used to be real quiet and shy. And you know why, guys? Because I didn't talk and I was so afraid. And this is the truth, guys, that through looking through my eyes, that people could see what I went through. And I didn't want that. I was not willing to open up about that. And why? Because it was painful. I feel it in my heart. It brings tears to my eyes. Thank you, Lord, for all these persons listening. Yes, many. And it's really important. And it's just so important. It's not like I was talking about in the beginning. Subscribers are nice and you have to have so many before you can come on. But guys, subscribers may be important on YouTube, but to me, the most important thing is the lives that it touches and the eyes that it opens to God's love. And that's what I'm thinking about. It's just about how many people that are going through things that this may help, and it's, to me, that's really what it's about. You have made him exceedingly glad with your presence. For the king trusts in the Lord, and through the mercy of the Most High, he shall not be moved. That's why we have to stand on his promises and his commandments and not go here or there. We have to stay focused on that, guys. And, we shall not be moved because we know who we believe in. We know what we read in the Bible. We know about God's promises. We know about him being in our times, that we felt like we couldn't go any further, that we wanted to give up, and we were depressed. And I'm sure all of us at one time in our life have been depressed about things. And sometimes, my father-in-law, he was I'm thankful that you share the Lord's message with us, Gina. It does help more than, well, thank you, Dana. And I appreciate that, because I want God's love to reflect right through this screen to other people, because that's a goal. That's my goal, that people know that they're not alone, that they are loved, and that the Lord stands ever ready to help. And like me, I really came about myself years ago, and I think I did that in my 20s because, like I was saying, I didn't want people, I felt like, and this sounds silly, guys, I felt like people could look in my face and my eyes and tell what I've been through. And I didn't want them to know that. That's what you call that protection mechanism that we all use at one time in our life, where we say we're okay and everything's just peachy when we know it's not, and sometimes we look at that as a weakness. Sometimes you really know how strong you can be when you're forced to be that way, but you don't have to be that way by yourself. The Lord stands ever ready in aid to whatever we're going through, and I can know there's tears out there because I'm starting to get weepy eyed. That's one of the gifts that God gave me. I can sense that, I can, I somewhat, well, when you care about someone and they cry, there's some people that are more sensitive than others. It's not really a psychic thing. It's just a thing that God gave me to feel the feelings of other people, and it's a gift. I can just, I'm getting kind of misty eyed myself because I can feel it. I can feel things through, even though a lot of you are hundreds of miles away, I can still feel that. And I think that is a God given gift. And sometimes you have to accept those gifts with thanksgiving, because when you're like this, you're able to reach out and be more effective to other people, to see that this person is really highly sensitive, and it's, and I think it's a God-given gift. Yes, it is, and it's, and sometimes I don't believe that God would give a gift like that if he knew that person was going to use it for a bad thing. So, he gives us all talents and all abilities according to who we are. He knows what we're made of. He knows what the quality to give the person to use for his glory, and I believe that totally. He knows our hearts, and he really does, and he knows the purity of our hearts. I don't believe the gifts are wasted. Right, Dana. I think that when God gives people a gift, sometimes we're like, we question that. Why would you give it to me? And he says, knock, knock, hello, I know your ability, and he does give gifts, and they, guys, are so precious. And you just feel so, they explain it when, just like when God comes into your heart, it's just, even though the things that's going on around you, it's like you still have peace in your heart, and people look at you like, how can you have peace in your heart when you're going through all this? And the answer is God. Plain and simple. God's plan for you doesn't have to be explained because each plan is different for each individual. But it all leads to the same thing where He wants us to be with Him one day in heaven, that place where there's no tears or sobbing, and people are rejoicing because they have run the gauntlet on this earth, and it's been tough, and heaven is your reward. And there's Blue Rose Lady, welcome in, good to see you. That to know that you run the gauntlet on this earth, you've been through, you feel like that little bird, its feathers are all ruffled from all the things that you went through. I have to share this story. It's not a story, it's the truth. Recently, a friend of mine's brother lost his child, and he was 35 and he had muscular dystrophy. And usually, when they have this ailment, they only live to be 35. And he was an only child, guys. And they were torn all to pieces. We never think about losing a child. And, he was speaking with the lady that's an acquaintance. And, she said, how your son fought for years with this horrible, horrible muscular dystrophy. But she said, you know what? He's in heaven and he's perfect. He is perfect. And guys, we know it's hard to let go. I mean, we think we'll go before a child. And she said that he is in heaven and he is perfect. He's not dealing with the things that he dealt with on the earth, and he's perfect. And we will all be perfect no matter what our ailment is. And they're going to, the family's going through a lot, but I think it really comforted his soul to know that his son is perfect because he's in heaven. And guys, we don't know what kind of life that we're going to go through. Some people have bad health and they suffer, guys. They really do. They suffer. But you know what? The end result in knowing that loved one that knows God, that passes on, will be made perfect. And just to be in the sight of the Lord and in that heavenly realm that He created for us. If you think about it, guys, here He created this beautiful earth. The sun comes up in the morning, the stars come out at night. And to think that all these things were prepared for us. Right. Yes, it's comforting and a relief. Our loved ones are no longer in pain or distress. Now, I want to share this with you guys. A lot of you guys may know this, but Bruce and Dennis's sister has terminal cancer, and she's lived through this for a couple years, and she's at the last phase of her life. And it's really hard, guys. So let's keep Dennis and even Bruce in our prayers, because it's hard to lose somebody. And she has terminal cancer, and guys, every day is a day. And then there's Mia of Crazy May Stash that's had surgery as well. Let's keep her in our prayers. Oh my gosh, guys. That here is the power of God. Mia has breast cancer and kidney cancer. Guys, the strength that she has had to be able to come online and and do the job that I'm sure I could. Guys, I don't know if I could do it. I really don't. To know that she must have an extreme faith in God. I mean, how overwhelming would that be to have to? She came online, and it was probably a good distraction to come online and not just break down, and that's the strength that God gives people. It really is. Guys, I couldn't do it. Now, I'm telling you right now, I'm pretty strong, but I don't think that I could talk about it and not just totally lose it, just break down. And she's a very strong lady. And I couldn't do it, guys. I know my strengths and my weaknesses, and that would be a weakness right there. So let's pray that her surgery she's already had it, that she recovers from that surgery, and that god awful thing that we call cancer, they got it all, because oh my goodness, we just don't know the path that people walk, guys. I could not imagine being in her position. I really couldn't. And to be able to hold up, I would just probably crumble, because I don't know, I just couldn't if I did, I would be really, really sobbing really, really hard. So let's move on with the 21st Psalm. I didn't lose my space. Your hand will find all your enemies. Your right hand will find those who hate you. You shall make them as a fiery oven in the time of your anger. The Lord shall swallow them up in his wrath, and the fire shall devour them. Their offspring you shall destroy from the earth, and their descendants from among the sons of men. For they intended evil against you. They devised a plot which they are not able to perform. Therefore you will make them turn their back. You will make ready your arrows on the string toward their faces. Be exalted, O Lord, in your own strength. We will sing and praise your power. So I tell you, like I said, there's been a lot of times where, and I'm sure we all have been there, where we just wonder, how am I going to get through this? How am I going to be a functioning human being? How am I going to do it? And then you go to the Lord in prayer, and how many times has he answered your prayer when you're so full of despair, you're depressed, you don't want to get up in the morning, and you're laying there and you prayed about it, and you were able to get up and function and stuff like that, because it was because of God and his mercy giving you strength and perseverance. Because we know, guys, sometimes perseverance is a hard thing, but it's like it says, one day at a time. Don't think about tomorrow, because tomorrow has enough problems in itself. And just focus on today and get through those things that are important. And don't let anything hold you down, because your faith in the Lord will raise you up every time, guys. I'm telling you. Oh, boy, I'm sure we could all share stories of things that we've been through that we've came out of, and people's looking at us like, you went through so much, but look, you're not, you're functioning, and you're moving on, and that's God, because he gives you the strength, guys, because we're only human, and we have weaknesses, we have trials and tribulations that we walk through, and it's only because of the Lord himself that has lifted us up during those times of trial, that we should be very thankful for, that his grace and glory has delivered us out of that dark place that we've been in. So hey Dawn, welcome in. So we're going to go to the Lord in prayer and thank him for those times that we've been through, that we felt like we were defeated, and we all are guilty of it, that we felt defeated. We had pity parties, and we just didn't know where to turn, and God tapped on our shoulder and said, I'm here. So, dear Heavenly Father, thank you for all the times that you have given me strength, especially in the last 3 months, that you made me focus on one day at a time instead of looking ahead and further clouding my mind with everything. And I thank you for the people in the chat, Lord, that have come in, that have went through things themselves and can identify with the things that I have gone through in my life. But when you are walking beside us, we should not fear, and just walk uprightly, doing the right things always, lifting other people up when they're feeling down, lending a hand to those who need it the most. People, non-judge, and just listen, and to be able to tell people that God loves them, and he's waiting and has all the answers to everything that they might be going through. But it all begins with a prayer, praying to you to guide us through those dark times. So I feel it really appropriate that we say the Lord's Prayer right now. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever and ever. Amen. You're welcome, Dana. It's last Tuesday I posted something and ended up on a comment, but I was busy. So everything's just about to be, thank you, Lenore, for dropping that. Everything's just about to be settled. The hardest part's over with. And I just feel that, I was in a position, guys, where I could pay the funeral director for a bill that was past due 3 years ago. And, guys, he's a Christian man. He, as we were speaking to him, he said he does everything on biblical principles. And, he is a good man. And I could see it, and I could see it dealt with people. And I was so glad to be able to pay him for his services. However, one was 3 years late, But I was able to pay him because I think that's what bothered me the most, to pay him. And it was just, it was almost like I looked at him. I said, "Hey, I'm sorry that this happened to you." And I said, "I'm so glad I'm able to pay you for your services. And I'm sorry that this happened to you. But I said, I am here to make everything right." I said, "I can tell you're a good man." And of course, he does have a son that works with him. And I said, "I truly hope that one day your son takes over this business." I said, "Because it is, in my opinion, that he is learning from the best." And he blushed a little bit. You're going to give me the big head." I said, "Well, you know what? I'm the type of person, I never give a compliment unless I feel you're deserving of it." But he blushed. So I was so glad to get that over, to pay that man. Thanks, Gina, for all your support of all us. We love you and love all of you guys. May the Lord bless each one of you. And I love you guys too. I feel like it's a privilege to be able to come on a channel and be able to maybe lighten the load of another person, and just, it's a privilege because sometimes God chooses the less of us to bring forth his glory. So it's been great to be in your company today. It's a privilege, it's an honor. And you guys have a great rest of your week. May, if you're going through something, may God lighten that load for you, and he will. And may you know the joy and peace in your heart that can only come from God himself. I love you guys. Have a great rest of your week, and we will resume next Tuesday. Stay safe, but most of all, you guys, thank you for being here. Bye bye.